Hello everyone, welcome to Microprocessor 8085 lecture series. This is lecture number 1. We will be doing the basics of a computing device. The main component is the microprocessor. So first we define what is the meaning of what is the microprocessor. So as we see, a microprocessor is a multi-purpose programmable clock-driven register-based electronic device which reads binary instructions from memory and gets the input from an input terminal, processes the input and provides the output. So this is how we define a microprocessor. So in general, a microprocessor is a clock-driven. Okay, so it is a multi-purpose device. So multi-purpose means what? It can be used for various purposes. Okay, it can be used for many purpose. For example, if we have a calculator, so calculator can only do that particular task for calculation purpose. It cannot be used for any other purpose, but a microprocessor can be used for many purposes. Okay, and it has a programmable, it is programmable. We can write various programs. It can be reprogrammed. It can do many tasks. Then it is clock driven. So every microprocessor has a clock, and we can say clock is the heartbeat of the processor. All the timing and control signals, they are synchronized with respect to the clock. More the speed of the clock, more is the speed of the processor. Then it is register based electronic device. So every microprocessor has a register set. Okay, so registers, they are the fastest available memory locations. So more the number of registers, more it is more advantageous. Okay, and of course it is an electronic device, so it reads the binary instructions from the memory. Okay, so memory, here we see there are the 4 components. Memory is one of the component, okay, of this block diagram represents a programmable device. So it contains a microprocessor, it contains the memory, it contains the input, it contains the output. So memory, it stores the instructions what microprocessor has to do. Okay, it apart from instructions, it can also store the data. Then we have the input terminal. So the user can input or any other device can input the data whatever it to the microprocessor from this input terminal. Then microprocessor, it processes the instructions, processes the data and gives the output at this particular output terminal. So these are the 4 main components of a programmable device: a microprocessor, memory, input and output. Now here we see the block diagram of a computer system. So it has a CPU, central processing unit, input, output and memory. So CPU, in the previous we just studied a microprocessor. So what is the difference between a microprocessor and a central processing unit, the CPU? See, microprocessor, we can say it is a part of the CPU. For computer to function, it should have some more components apart from the microprocessor. Okay, so now we have integrated processors, but in old computer systems, apart from the microprocessor, there were some supporting IC, supporting chips, and they would make up the CPU. So here CPU, it contains the arithmetic logic unit and it contains the control unit. So arithmetic logic unit, it is responsible for performing all the arithmetic logic operations. All the arithmetic logic operations are arithmetic and logic operations are performed by this unit. Then we have the control unit. So control unit, it is responsible for providing all the necessary control and timing signals and controlling all the operations of the system. It is like the air traffic control of a airport. Okay, so it is controlling the all this. So this control unit, it is controlling all the operations. Okay. Then we have already seen the input. Okay, so this is the input terminal. We can input the data to the CPU and we get output at this output terminal. And this memory is used to store the instructions, store the data. So instructions, actually programs, we have to feed the programs in memory, and these programs are in the form of binary instructions. Now we see the difference between a microprocessor and a microcontroller. So at the left side we have a microprocessor, okay, and on the right side we have a microcontroller. So a microprocessor, Okay, it is when it is working as a here in this case it is working as a CPU. So it in this case what we see, it has no inbuilt RAM. Okay, there is no inbuilt RAM for a microprocessor. We have to connect it externally. Then there is no ROM, no inbuilt ROM is there. Then there are no ports. Ports are used to connect the microprocessor to the external peripherals. So microprocessor does not has any ports. So we have to connect some extra circuits for getting RAM, ROM, then also for ports, and there are no timers either. Okay, there are no internal timers. Then sometimes we may need to have this A to D conversion. Okay, because it may happen that the data is analog and we need to convert to that is analog to digital converter. So we want to convert the analog input to digital output, so there is no provision, so we have to connect that thing. So this is the microprocessor. Now what we see in a microcontroller, so a microcontroller, it has inbuilt RAM and ROM, it has input output ports. Okay, it has ports and we can connect these ports directly to the input and output devices. And then it has inbuilt A to D converter, there is a timer, and there is also serial input out. Of course serial input outputs are also present in microprocessor, but these components, they are not present in the microprocessor. We need to connect them externally. Microcontroller, they are generally used for embedded system design. Okay. And of course microprocessor are also used, but microcontroller, they are more preferred. Okay, now it is not that microprocessor, they don't have RAM, ROM and ports, input outputs, and they don't have timers, so they are they are not preferred. It is not so. In case of microprocessor, we can connect as much RAM as possible, and of course if we need that amount of RAM, then we connect that much amount of RAM. Then we need number of input output ports, that much is connected. So of course for embedded system, of course microcontroller is the first choice. Okay, so they have their own advantages and disadvantages. Now we discuss the advancement in semiconductor technology. So previously computers were made by using vacuum tubes. That was around 1950s and 60s. Okay, these computers which were made, they were called as first generation computers. Okay, this was before the advent of transistors. So these were the first generation computers. They were made by using vacuum tubes. Okay, okay, these are first generation computers. I am unable to write it. Okay, so these are the first generation computers. Then the problem with these computers was that they were very enormous, required very high amount of power, and they were extremely expensive. Then after 1950s, transistor was developed by few scientists. So the new computers, they were built around using the transistors. Okay, I think around 1960 the first computer was made by using the transistors. So the advantage was that the size of the computer became small, and they required less amount of power. And then after a few years, we had integrated circuits. Now with integrated circuits, the entire circuit components, they were grouped in a small chip, which is called as the IC. It integrated, that is ICs, integrated circuits. With the advent of more powerful techniques, it started with small scale integration. So in small scale integration, there were around 1 to 10 gates in a small chip. Then with more technological advancement, we had medium scale integration, which had 10 to 100 gates per chip. Then came large scale integration, which had more than 100 gates per chip. Then it went on. Okay, with very large scale integration, it had more than around 300,000 components. There is 3 lakh components in a small chip. Then after that, we had super large scale integration, SLSI, which has millions of components in a small chip. So as we what we see is, as we go from vacuum tubes to the large scale integration techniques, the size of the system, they became smaller and smaller, and the systems, they became more powerful, okay, more fast, more cheap, and less power consuming. Next we see the evolution of Intel microprocessor. As we see, there is a series from 4004, then 8008. So these are the processors, okay, starting from 4004, which was introduced in 1971. Okay, and here we see how the number of transistors, the clock speed, the address bus, the data bus, and the amount of addressable memory. So as we compare, see, from 1971 to 2000, in just a span of 29 years, okay, the speed of the system, the number of transistors inside the system, okay, the address bus, the data bus, there was a tremendous change. Okay. So let us see the first one. Let us see this 8085. Let's consider on 8085 because we'll be studying 8085. So here 8085 was introduced in 1976. It had 6500 number of transistors, and this is the clock speed. Now clock, it of course determines the speed of the processor. More faster clock, more faster is the processor. Okay, so the clock speed is 5 megahertz, and then the address bus is 16 bit of 8085. Now the significance of address bus is that it gives the system capacity. More the number of address bus, more is the system capacity. So here, because it has a 16-bit address bus, the amount of memory which can be addressed is 64,000 bytes, not more than that. Then the data bus. Now as we see, data bus is of 8-bit. So the speed, we can say the performance of the processor depends on the data bus. So when we say 8085 is a 8-bit processor because the data bus is of 8-bit. Okay, if we compare this processors what we are using in our mobile phone processors, they are much faster as compared to this 8085, because in our mobile phone generally we have a 64-bit processor now what we are using, okay, currently. In the future we don't know what will happen, but here now we are using a 64-bit processor, okay, and that can also support more than hundreds of GBs, okay. It can also support 128 gigabytes of memory. So this is 8085. And then after 8085, Intel introduced 8086 processor in 1978, and it had 29,000 number of transistors and had a 5 megahertz clock speed. Address bus was of 20 bits, and this was a 16-bit processor, and the addressable memory was 1 megabytes because of the 20-bit data address bus. Then if we compare the Pentium processors, okay, like Pentium 4, which was introduced in 2000, so it had 42 million number of transistors. This is a 42 million, and the clock speed is 1.4 gigahertz. Now if we compare this clock speed for 5 megahertz with 1.4 gigahertz, okay, if we make some approximations, then we can say with respect to clock, Pentium is 1000 times faster, okay. And then from 16-bit 16-bit address we come to 36-bit address, and because of which 64 gigabytes of memory can be addressable. And from 8-bit processor, now this is 64-bit processor, that is in 2000, okay. So this is the difference, okay. There is a big leap within a few years. Now what processors we are now using? Intel. So as we are aware, we are using Core i3, Core i4, okay, Core i3, Core i5, then Core i7. Okay, this processors which are being used now, they are multi-core processor. Okay, multi-core means what? In a single chip, many processing unit would be working. Like if we have quad core, so quad core means what? There are 4 processing units. In all this process, there is a single processing unit, but in this quad core, there are 4 processing unit. Apart from this, we also have parallel processing and many other things which actually speeds up the processor, which extremely speeds up the processor. Okay, so this is what we have now. Okay, it has a 4 physical cores. In case of i7 Core i7 processors, it has 4 physical cores, and it has 8 megabytes of cache memory. Okay, and apart from this, there are more features in this processor Core i7, okay, which is also called the 6th generation processor. Okay, so that's all for this session. Thanks for watching.